Lower income taxes equals no services. That's what they're trying to convince you. Really? Who's going to cut the teachers and the firemen? The opposite is true. Lower taxes, more revenue. Lower taxes equals more revenue. The chalk and this lovely board will point it out tomorrow. But remember, this is a fight against progressives. It's not about Obama. It's not about the Republicans. It's not about the Democrats. It's about all of them. It's about the whole system. Progressives, their agenda, which is probably why when Governor Schwarzenegger created a bipartisan panel to help with the budget problems, the panel came back recommending that they repeal sales and corporate taxes and flatten the income tax. That's what the bipartisan panel said. The proposals, I'm quoting, have failed to gain any traction with those in Sacramento. We just heard from one of the Republican candidates running for the Senate in California. Next, the Republican emerging as the Tea Party candidate. Is he the guy? We'll see. He's here next. We just heard from Carly Fiorina, one of the Republican candidates running for California's Senate primary. Chuck DeVore is running for the same seat, but he's running as a Tea Party favorite, and they're going head to head. And I mean, I saw you guys on the set. You were very nice to each other, and you play nice together. Let me start with a couple things, because I asked Carly, you going to be in bed with all the special interests, and she said no. Let me just give you some of the stats on you. Paw Pack, created in 1980, is the first organization dedicated to the election of candidates for state office in California who are committed to the well-being of animals. They gave you an F.
Ask my dog about that, by the way.
California League of Conservation Voters have given you, out of 100, a rating of 5. The Sierra Club of California, out of 100, have given you a 0. I just want to... Based on a point system with points assigned for action supported of or in opposition to Planned Parenthood affiliates of California's position, Planned Parenthood gave you a 0. NARAL, based on Assembly member, you were anti-choice by NARAL and the California Labor Federation, and this one I have to take issue with. Labor Federation, AFL-CIO give you 15% approval rating. Why so high?
Well, I was a dues-paying member of the AFL-CIO. That's how I worked my way through college as a carpenter.
You know, we were sitting on the set, and you said to me, and nobody has this conversation. I mean, look, man, this show is it's a geek fest. He said, you know, Woodrow Wilson and the progressive movement, what people don't understand is that's the real root of the problem.
It is.
What makes you say that?
Well, Woodrow Wilson and people like Frank Goodenow, about 130 years ago, saw the Constitution as a roadblock to their plans for perfecting government and for basically ushering in a paradise on earth. And instead of what was set up by Madison to be a separation of powers with the legislative, the executive, and the judicial, because the founders understood that people like power and that you'll end up with tyranny in your country if you can't separate the powers. And so what the progressives thought, kind of drawing on the writings of Hegel, is that we have the administrative state, the political, where you have the politicians who are elected, and the administrative. And the administrative then has your technocrats, your civil servants, your bureaucrats, your unelected people whose job it is to draft the regulations, because of course the politicians can't be trusted to get it right. Now, a lot of this I learned and came into a more deep understanding of it through the Claremont Institute, which is a very important think tank out here on the West Coast that's based on constitutional governance and the study of statesmanship. I was very fortunate in 2004 to go through an 8-day program called the Lincoln Fellowship, where you learn about the founding principles of the United States and about those who don't like those founding principles.
So then how do you, by the way, here, you deserve a water for that one too. I mean, you could have the phone. Take the phone with you.
I don't want the
there's
phone.
Very few. They never call.
No.
They never call. To try to get people to understand that is, I think, the greatest challenge. And we have to take a break. I have to take a break, but I want to start back here. You were one of the guys, you resigned your office here, or your position here in California at the State Assembly. You said you guys are mad, you're out of your mind. And so you walked away. But people are saying right now, and it's only going to get worse the closer you get to election, you know you can't go out. You need to have somebody that can work in the system. I think the system is it's riddled with a disease called progressive. If you've got cancer, no doctor says, start using filter tip cigarettes. Right. They say, no more cigarettes.
Right.
Progressive and the progressive idea are the cigarettes. So you tell me how to fix it. Wait. Just a minute. Next. We're back with Chuck DeVore running for California, a Republican Senate primary race. Chuck, when we left, I said, you're going to fix it. You go to Washington. How are you going to fix it?
Well, first of all, we have to follow the Constitution. That's the very first thing that any lawmaker does when they get sworn in.
This audience won't, but most people will say, well, where aren't we following the Constitution?
Well, where do we start? I think a good, obvious place is the 10th Amendment. As a state lawmaker, I find my power as a state lawmaker is often being short-circuited at the federal level. For example, the stimulus. The stimulus, when California accepted it, came with all these strings that locked in higher spending. And I warned about it on the floor of the Assembly, but we took the money anyway.
You left the Assembly, or you left your position at the Assembly. Did you walk out of the Assembly?
No, what I did is I resigned as chief Republican whip because a few key Republican leaders had come to an agreement with Governor Schwarzenegger to enact the largest tax increase in U.S. history at the state level.
So you just want to make the point that I'm not involved in that.
I couldn't be part of leadership and promote something that I knew was going to kill the economy and hurt our brand as Republicans, because we've already suffered under former President Bush and under Governor Schwarzenegger by increasing spending. And the last we had left was at least we were good on taxes. Well, we threw that out, too.
I have to tell you, America, this weekend, and I don't endorse anybody. You got to make up your own mind. But I met with Michelle Bachmann on Friday? Was it Friday? Friday night. I spent like 30 minutes. I've never really sat down with her. And I really liked her. I think she's the real deal. Whether she's right for Minnesota, that's for Minnesota to decide. You intrigue me because I'm looking for people that understand the Constitution, understand the progressive movement. Are you shocked at how many people don't? I mean, you've sat down with me and you've talked to me more about the progressive movement, which is the disease. Would you agree it's the disease?
It is the disease because it's anti-constitutional. They saw the Constitution as a roadblock to their grand designs for bigger government, and they set about to dismantle it, beginning with Woodrow Wilson.
Can you go into Washington and not lose your soul?
Well, you follow the Constitution, and if you follow the Constitution, it's really not a very big book. You follow the Constitution, and the preamble of the Declaration of Independence is the mission statement of government, that government exists to ensure that our inalienable rights, that we can pursue them, not to try to give them to us with money borrowed from China.
Back in a second. That's a lot. We're in California all week, and tomorrow a look at the history of progressivism in California, what it means and what it has done to the rest of the country, and a lesson from Calvin Coolidge. You explain the ratings, because I can't. Calvin Coolidge, and we haven't had a long relationship, and it just started last night, but he may actually be one of my favorite presidents from Los Angeles. Good night, America.